The Pentagon says 5 people are dead following the latest strike on alleged drug boats as the U.S. continues ramping up pressure on Venezuela. The military did not say exactly where yesterday's strike occurred or where one the day prior happened, in which 3 other vessels were targeted. Correspondent Kelly Meyer is live at the White House with the details. So, Kelly, what are you learning?
Hey there, Nicole. So we are seeing that President Trump and this White House are definitely keeping the pressure on Venezuela and its leader, Nicolas Maduro, with these ongoing strikes. We haven't seen any yet now in 2026, but we certainly have seen a lot of them in 2025, including over the last 48 hours or so. As you said, there were strikes last night on New Year's Eve, as well as the night before. And what's interesting about that one is there were survivors on 2 vessels. Their location of those survivors and the condition still not known at this time. We've been reaching out to the U.S. Coast Guard on that. And the location really of these strikes is also not known. When military officials, they've previously disclosed where attacks on alleged narco traffickers have taken place, U.S. Southern Command now is not willing to disclose where Tuesday or Wednesday's attacks occurred. They said, "We have nothing to add to our ex post. Due to operational security concerns, we will not comment on the location." That's what a U.S. Southern Command spokesperson responded when we asked. Now, in a ceremony at a leadership school, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is accusing the U.S. of lying. Listen to this.
The United States wants to impose a veto on us and only broadcast fake news and war against a noble country like Venezuela in the United States. Everything they say is a lie.
He's using President Trump's words of fake news really against him there. We know that President Trump has said that there are drugs coming into the country via these alleged drug boats, and they believe that much of that is coming from Venezuela, including deadly fentanyl, the administration says. And the president claims that this is saving thousands and thousands of lives by stopping these alleged drug boats. Nicole.
All right, so in another part of the world, we're also learning more, Kelly, about Russia's claim that Ukraine targeted Russian President Putin's residence for an attack.
Yeah, this is something we've been seeing play out this week. And remember, even President Trump said that Russian President Vladimir Putin told him over the phone on Monday about that alleged attack. That's how President Trump first heard about it. And he seemed at the time to really side with Putin. Then we learned that CIA Director John Radcliffe actually briefed President Trump yesterday on this. And then we saw the president post an op-ed critical of Putin after that briefing. And in that briefing, the U.S. intelligence said that Ukraine was not responsible for any alleged attack on Russian President Vladimir Putin's residence. But we are hearing from Russia today. They are trying to refute the U.S. intelligence, adding that Ukraine did try this. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs posted a message on social media saying it extracted information from a UAV shot down, alleging it was Ukrainian. We also know that President Zelensky is trying to push forward again with this peace deal. We saw him there with President Trump on Sunday at Mar-a-Lago. The president really hoping to end the conflict in 2025, really on day 1 of his second term. But he is now bringing this with him into 2026. But he really tried to make sure that it's on some sort of path towards peace. Zelensky saying in his nightly address last night that Ukraine is working very hard as well to resume prisoner exchanges with Russia. Nicole.
All right, Kelly Meyer, live for us there at the White House. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.